All right. Well, we got some new lights coming in.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of them? It was something I had to do. It was a brand new line.
It's new. It's new to one of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah. It's something brand new. So
they'll be in this week.
Yeah.
We'll let you know next week.
Yeah. So we have what we got coming in is we have like a high powered one, a mid powered one, and a low powered one. Didn't we get three?
A 500, an 800,
and a 1600,
and a 16. Yeah.
And then we got tail lights to go with that too.
Yeah, which have like 360.
One has 360.
One is 360 light
display. Yeah.
The other one's like a 300
lumen
rear light.
Isn't that crazy?
That's stupid bright.
I don't know about that one.
It's gonna blind the drivers.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's too bright.
Yeah,
200 is a lot.
We'll find out. But
I don't know.
Then there's the other one that's a real, it's like a square shape. That was kind of cool.
That's the velocity light.
Yep.
So when you hit the brake on your bike, it goes solid like a brake light.
It's got a gyroscope in it.
Yep. And then a accelerometer or something.
Yeah.
And so we got one of those, and we got like a 50 lumen rear light too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then
isn't that the 360 one?
We have a 360 one that's 50 lumen, and then we have a standard 51.
So we got 4 taillights?
I think we got 4.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So the 360,
maybe we didn't get the 300. Maybe we said that's too bright.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
The one of them had kind of a red anodized case to it.
Right. Yeah, that's
cool.
the 50 lumen one.
Oh, okay.
And then the
360. The 360 is kind of cool. It's basically a tail light that's cased in a clear housing, so it's like you can see right into it.
You can see through it, yeah.
And so when it turns on, it's completely red.
Yep.
Like so, whatever angle you're looking at, you can.
It's
see
all
it.
red, yeah.
It's all red.
And then, so it'll probably light you up a little bit too.
I would imagine.
Or your bike up at least, right?
Yeah.
How you mount it, but yeah.
So we're gonna review those. The headlight, that fancy headlight, had a LED screen on it or something.
Yes,
like a remote that you'd run it.
The 800 and the 1600. The 1600 also has a wireless remote,
right?
So you can mount it. So like if it's mainly meant for like mountain biking.
Yeah.
So if you're coming up to somebody on a trail at night, you just hit the button
Bang
right there, and it takes it to. I think it takes it to low, back to high. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then on the screen, you can see what you got left for power.
For power, yeah.
What mode you're in.
And their battery life is really good, actually, for running them on high.
That's the thing with these LED.
Yeah.
Every time we see new lights, it's like more and more incredible.
Yeah. So it's like if you run the 800 one at 800, it lasts 2 hours. It used to be you only got an hour out of full power, right? And then if you run it at 400, it's like 6 hours or something like that.
That's an insane amount of light.
And then you run it lower and lower and lower, it goes longer. But.
Right. And then most of those had flasher modes on them.
Yep.
And I mean it's and the prices for this stuff is ridiculous.
They're not bad.
I want to say they're between $100 and $200
for the expensive for the 1600 one. Yeah, it was sub 200, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was like $160.
And you can hold it in your hand. I mean, it's self-contained.
Size, yeah, it's the size of like a
candy bar
of a pack of cards.
Yeah, a pack of cards.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's smaller than a pack of cards, I'd say.
Yeah, light technology blows me away.
Well, yeah, remember that light you had on the old 1x1?
Mm-hmm.
It had a screen on it, and how many lumens was it?
Well, they didn't go by lumens.
Okay.
They went by candle power because it was German.
Right.
It wasn't near as bright as.
And how much did it cost?
It was like $200, wasn't it?
Right, but I think we did the lumen equivalency, and it was like 200 lumens, and it was
$250.
It was $200, so it was a buck a lumen almost.
Yeah, that's crazy. So since we're getting these lights in, we thought it might be kind of fun to talk about what we do for nighttime gravel riding.
Yeah.
So, what's your typical setup?
So I run. So I don't ride at night. I usually ride early in the morning, so it's dark then too. But I run anywhere between a 500 and 1,000 lumen light. With one of them has external battery power, so you can charge it while you're riding with a power pack if you need to, long ride. And then I've got like a 50 lumen rear light usually, and then depending on the bike, I don't run a Garmin, so I don't have any backlight on my computer, so I'll run like a 200 lumen headlamp also.
Yeah.
So that way I can see what I'm looking at.
Right. So I've done a lot of nighttime gravel stuff over the years, and man, the light technology has changed so much.
Right.
I found out that probably the minimum amount of light that I would ever run would be about 200 lumens.
Yeah, for sure.
To feel like I was safe and
so you can,
right. And then it kind of depends on the lens technology,
right.
What's going on there. So some lights throw a kind of a spot beam out. Some lights are a big wash.
Yep.
Some lights have both. Like this fancy one we're getting in is supposed to have both.
Right. The more high powered ones are double lens technology.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so back in the day, you didn't really have those choices.
No.
So I always kind of looked for something that was more of a wash. I wanted to go from ditch to ditch.
Right.
Because you have animals out there that can run up out of the ditch and you don't want to hit them. Right. So if you have a pencil beam going down the road, they could already be up on the road. And by the time you see them come into your light beam, you're too late.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Also, it was more of a washy light that went from ditch to ditch was better because then I could see obstacles in the road and know where I could go to avoid them.
Right.
So, like, if you had a rut or a series of washboard or a pothole, you could see it in your light, but then where can I go to avoid it? You had a pencil, a straight line beam doesn't really help you there.
Right.
Where I did like a straight line beam because they usually throw further down the road. So I liked that when I was going down a hill really fast.
Right.
So if I had a real washy light that went from ditch to ditch but didn't really project out real far, I had to really check my speed up because I didn't want to outrun my quote outrun your unquote light. My light, which means that if you're going, that means if your light's good, like if you could stop when you see something at the edge of your light beam and be safe at 15 miles an hour or under.
Right.
Well, what if you're going downhill at 25? Well, then you're outrunning your light. So that's what that means. So, you want throw down the road too.
Right.
Ideally, you wanted something that went from ditch to ditch and threw it down the road a long ways. And that didn't happen until I would say 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's what, if you couldn't get that,
expensive light,
you were running, like you would run a throw light on your head.
Right.
And then a ditch to ditch light on your bars usually.
Right.
And then
now you can run it all just off your bars.
All of it goes off your bars. Yeah.
Right. And so unless you're navigating by signs on the road, which sometimes we do here in Iowa because we have street signs in every corner.
Right.
You really don't need a helmet light anymore.
No. Nope. It is nice to have if
nice,
you're like turning and looking
in the ditch.
If you're single tracking or something, you can look around a corner a little better.
Right.
But if you're looking, if you
have to repair something, it's kind of nice because the light's on your head.
A lot of guys run just a headlamp. They'll carry a headlamp with them.
Right.
If they have to. Right. So yeah.
Yeah. So headlamps I don't see as super necessary anymore.
No.
Back in the day, we had to because of just what you said.
Right.
One threw down the road, and the other one was the washy.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if I rode now, that's what I do. I just get a really nice high power light on the handlebar. It's self-contained.
Yep.
And then I run it for a tail light. I just run whatever. I just never really was too concerned about that because where I ride out in the country, there's not a lot of traffic.
What's the best light you've ever?
The best one?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say probably from the standpoint of features would be one of the Lazine lights that I had that you could, you mentioned you had one that had a external pack that you could recharge the light. And I have a Lazine one like that. Yeah.
I think the best one I ever ran, honestly, is that giant one for spread of light. Cause
that was good. I had that one too.
That was the biggest spread of light I've ever, I don't know how to say this. That was the biggest spread of light that I ever owned. It literally went from ditch to ditch.
That was a pretty good one.
And it was 1600 lumens. And yeah, that was, I still run that actually. I still have that.
Yeah.
So
that one had a mount that would center it over your stem.
Right.
And I tried that, and that mount rattled like crazy.
Yeah, it's a good light, but its mounting is a little off because you have to use a wrench to move it if you want to move it. And I didn't like that, but I did like how much light it put out.
Right. There were certain characteristics of the light beyond just the light that I didn't like about it.
So usually I will run a Lesign light because they got the quick on, quick off, and you only need one light.
And you can turn it.
Yeah, you can move them. You can move them from bike to bike. You can swivel them. Yeah, they're super
small. They're inexpensive.
Right.
They last a long time. Yeah, I mean, that was probably my favorite one. I was going to ask you that one that we're getting in the 1600 lumens.
Yeah.
Didn't the rep say that you could actually charge things from that?
Yeah. So it's got a USB in and a USB out.
Right.
So you can charge a cell phone from your light. It's a power bank and a light.
That's crazy.
Now, depending on what you're doing, you wouldn't want to use that as an power out, basically, because
I would say you would do that only in an emergency.
Right.
Like, say if you're in an event and your Garmin is starting to die, and you want to keep it going. Or like, say if you need to make an emergency phone call and your phone's dying. Oh shoot, I forgot to charge my phone.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. That might come in handy.
Yeah. But I would rarely use that. Right. I would say. But it is cool that it has it.
Yeah, I could see that as a nice emergency feature. That's something I wouldn't use in a normal situation. Right. Yeah. So that's probably an overview of what we would do for lights. But how much light do you think you really need? I mean, I mentioned that I thought you had to have at least a 200. But what do you like to have?
I like to have 500 minimum. 500 minimum up front. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the minimum that I like, just because I feel like you're not going to really outrun your light. 1,000's pretty nice.
I kind of think that personally, if you get way up there, like that giant light that we had that was 1,600 lumens, and I tried it on high. Our gravel is kind of depends on what gravel you have. Okay, so where you ride.
I know where you're going with this.
So a lot of our gravel is white gray, or darker gray, and those colors tend to wash out with a real high end light, so a high powered light. So if you have the the light on high, what happens is it just makes everything the same. So you can't see any variances in the gravel where you want to ride. It just takes that all away.
It's like skiing down a mountain with no orange lens goggles.
Right. You can't see the contrast.
You can't see the contrast of the snow. Right. It's the same thing. It's just all the same. Unless you run it low. But yeah, I never really ran that light at 1,600. I'd usually run it down at like 800, 600 or whatever the setting was.
Right. So, we always talk about how high power beams on cars are right around 1,000 lumens. Right. And I mean, you go out in your car at night on gravel and turn the highs on, it's like you're almost better off driving with your lows.
With lows and fog lights.
Right. So, and that's why I don't know that I care if your light has this blazing amount of power. The thing I look at is if you do have that, when I ride that power down to somewhere where I'm comfortable with it, which is like I'm like you, maybe 500-600 lumens.
Yep.
Then I know I'm going to have tons of runtime.
Yeah, that's why you would run. That's the benefit of buying a bigger lumens light. You can run it at a lower lumen for longer periods of time. So like if you buy a 500 lumen light and you're going to run it at 500 the whole time, well, you're going to run it out of juice in like an hour and a half. Because that's high for that light. Whereas you buy a 1,600 or 1,000 lumen, you're going to be able to run it like 4, 5, 6 hours maybe. Just depends what you're going to do. But
so in guitar player parlance, that's called headroom on your amp.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. Yep.
So you want headroom in your light, So you're not like pushing your light to the max to get what you need for being able to see. You run your light real hot, you run your light out of power faster because you're running it to the max to get where you need to be. Whereas if you got this extra headroom, you're not pushing that light that hard, and you're getting that run time that you need, but you can still see where you're going. And if you happen to need that higher beam, it's there if you need it.
Yep.
So maybe there's this crazy mile-long downhill run that you wanted to make sure you can see really well way down there, the trail, because you're going to be going 40 miles an hour. Maybe you do want that light then.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
So, to me, anything over 1,000 is kind of a waste of time, unless you're getting super long run times at your 400 lumen settings.
Right.
So that's how much light I would need. Now at the back, like we were saying, that 300 lumen rear light sounds like a blinder to me.
Yeah, especially at pitch dark. You know, when that's a daytime run lumen.
I would think.
Yeah, 300 is what you're going to run in the day. You're going to run it down to like, you're going to run at the lower settings at night because you'll be able to see it easier.
It won't be so hard on people with you.
You're going to blind. If you run that at 300 at night, you're going to blind people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to be like, ugh.
Especially if it's on blinker mode.
Right.
Oh, my God.
It's really, so the other thing with blinker, most lights, if you look at them, if they're a 300 lumen, or let's say they're a 50 lumen, at the strobe, they'll get like 100 lumen when it flashes because it's surging apparently, and it like puts out brighter light. I don't know, but
peak power.
Yeah, peak powers it, and you can look at it. Says it on the boxes of a lot of them. It'll say strobe mode. Like it's like another 50 lumens usually.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not going to run that high for only a brief moment. So
right.
You can handle it.
It can handle it. Yeah.
Interesting. So, when I know what I've had lights in the past that kind of, instead of blinking, they glowed brighter, and then they faded.
The Grateful Red.
Yeah, the Grateful Red was the first one from Planet Bike. And I always found that was a little easier on people's eyes that rode with me
at night.
They appreciated that.
Yep.
So if a tail light has that, that's awesome.
Yeah, I run that one a lot.
That's a really good feature to have. I would say if you're going to have this super high powered daytime 300 lumen thing, I hope you got something to run it down lower.
Yeah.
So I can use it at night.
Right.
I don't like a huge tail light.
No.
One of the things that really kind of ticks me off about a lot of these lights is their mounts.
Yeah.
Man, some of the mounts are fiddly.
Yeah, these new lights that we got are rubber.
Yeah.
They're quick on, quick off.
I kind of like those better.
I think we're going to like that.
Lezyne has theirs that way.
Yep.
I use there's a little Lezyne that looks like a little cylindrical pill.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of push the middle of the lens to turn it on and off. That one I like.
Yep.
For nighttime riding.
Yep.
It's small, it's out of the way.
So some like good daytime running ones are Psycho-Lite dices.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a little dice, especially if you're like a weight weenie or you're like a road rider, or you just need something for your kids or something too. Yeah. Something small, something they can take on, take off quick, go into school, put them in their backpack, not take up a lot of room. The rear one is 50 lumen, the front one's 150 lumen, and they've got really good strobes on them, so they're really, really good.
Yeah.
A daytime running light. Yeah, they're like $60 for the pair.
That's not bad.
No, and I mean, I know I have a lot of road riders that that come in and buy those because they want something during the day. They don't ride at night.
Yeah,
they're riding during the day, and they just don't want a big bulky light, and that seems to work out well for them.
I think if you do run at night, one thing you need to pay attention to with the tail light is how it's aimed.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't think about that.
Yep.
So like if you there's some lights that like attach to your seat stays, and that's cool.
Right.
They look kind of cool. But the light's pointed up at a 45-degree angle up in the
sky,
air.
Right.
So is that being really as effective as it could be?
No.
So like Psycho-Lite has on some of their tail lights where you can attach it to the seat stay, but it has a swivel, so you can turn the light up, it's facing the way you want it to be faced towards drivers. I have run one of those before on a couple of my bikes, and those are really nice. USB recharge, and you can see them for quite a while.
Yep.
Quite a ways away. So, That's kind of what I would like in a tail light. I know some people have. What do you think about putting a tail light on your helmet? I've seen that done.
I think it's you get the light up higher.
Yep.
So that's good. And a lot of helmets have rear lights in them.
Right.
Nowadays, or like Giro, you can buy a vent light that you put in to the back of the vent.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you ride in anywhere where you know there's going to be some traffic.
Yep.
And you get that light up in there.
You could leave that one on like solid, and then the other one strobing.
Yeah.
So it's just going to grab your eye a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have, that's not a bad idea. I don't think.
Yeah.
Good idea.
It used to be when everybody wore hydration packs, you clipped one onto that.
Yeah. Right.
Which also got the light up in there
higher,
more.
yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
A little bit better. So I think that's another thing you can think about too.